This is NC Spin, an unrehearsed discussion on issues of interest to North Carolinians. Now, here is your moderator, Tom Campbell.
Welcome. You've heard and read the spin the media and the politicians have put on the issues of the day. To get the correct spin on what's going on in North Carolina, let's introduce you to our panel of experts. They include political consultant Doug Raymond, Chris Fitzsimon from NC Policy Watch, John Hood from the John Locke Foundation, and political consultant, campaign consultant Brad Crone. Welcome to this special election preview edition of NC Spin. This week we're going to give you the most thorough and comprehensive analysis of what you can expect in Tuesday's elections. Now, last week we went over the appellate court races and may have time to hit them just very lightly, and we want to address them again, but we also want to focus on the congressional races, the Senate races, and the legislative races first. Brad, as things now stand, we've got 9 Republicans, 4 Democrats representing us in Congress. Seems a pretty sure bet that the Republicans are going to continue the majority. We've got several seats that are worth mentioning, however. I guess one of the most interesting is that open 7th congressional seat that Mike McIntyre vacated down in the southeastern part of the state.
Good news for Doug and me, it's going to be over on Tuesday, come heck or high water. Yeah, David Rouser's going to win that seat. And I said earlier in the week at NC Free Luncheon that I think Rouser's going to do a very good job as a member of Congress, simply because of his training with Senator Helms and with Senator Dole. And I think that will be a seat he'll hold for a long period of time.
All right. I think most of us agree there's probably not a heck of a lot of interest in most of the other races, or close races anyway. We got to say that 2nd congressional race is very interesting between Clay Aiken and Renee Elder, principally because of Aiken's star power, right?
Absolutely, and I think we all know who it's going to. So I saw a campaign sign come in and get it, and try to get it autographed now, because the story's going to be over here shortly.
Any of the other congressional races, the 6th has had some interest.
We'll have a new congressman in the 6th, obviously,
yeah,
Mark Walker, but that's a Republican seat.
And Alma Adams will be a new member of Congress.
In the 12th.
In the 12th district.
So at the end of the election, what's your prediction? 10-4?
10-3. And I think it's worth, I say this every election, that, you know, the U.S. Senate race, which we'll talk about in a minute, it's very razor-thin margin. The presidential race has been very close. North Carolina is evenly divided, but we're going to have 10 members of one party out of 13. It's time to think about how we draw our and congressional districts.
Guys, North Carolina has never gotten so much political attention as we've gotten during this U.S. Senate race. It's been an interesting week. Several polls released, all of them still showing a tie, virtual tie, or within the margin of error.
Mitt Romney coming to town, Bill Clinton coming to town.
Oh yeah, I mean the stars have
descended on us.
Yeah. Anything new from y'all's point of view so far as what might happen in this race?
Well, it is a cliche to say that it all comes down to the ground game and getting out the vote. And sometimes cliches are accurate. That is essentially where we are. And if you look over the course of the last 2 months, Kay Hagan's poll approval average has barely budged. It's about 44% at the beginning, at Labor Day. It's about 44% now. Tom Tillis's has dropped and then risen. So he's got some momentum. She's been stable. You've got a large number out there in a lot of these polls still for Sean Hall, the Libertarian, somewhere between 5, 6, maybe 7 points.
Even now, after it was revealed he smokes pot?
Perhaps because he smokes pot. But if that happens, that would be very surprising in North Carolina history. But here we are almost to the election day, and the Libertarian is still polling surprisingly high.
The one thing that I found in the tracking poll, especially in the eastern part of the state and the rural part of the state, white, unaffiliated voters, 35 years old and older, have been breaking Republican, 60-40. And that's been taking place over the last 2 weeks, and a lot of it has to do with their lack of confidence in the president's ability to run the government. And that has been the Ebola scare.
So the Republicans have been successful in pinning the Democrats to Obama.
Absolutely. Tillis has had a bump with unaffiliated voters. They were breaking almost even, 1-to-1. Right now, it's almost a 60-40 split in the rural in suburban regions of the state. The anomalies with unaffiliated voters are in Wake County, Mecklenburg County, Buncombe County.
You're talking about with early voting?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the early voting numbers started off pretty high with Democrats outvoting Republicans in early voting. What are we seeing from this?
I think...
Can we read anything from it?
I've actually been on the ground in 6 different counties during early voting. What I saw Thursday and Friday was almost an attitude of voters saying, hey, I'm done with it. You know, it wasn't just, I'm going to get out early, beat the lines. They were trying to make a statement that they had had enough of it. And what we're seeing this week has been more of the traditional voters coming in. They'll take literature from campaigns. They're looking to see what the judges are and things like that. It was much more of a more traditional type of feel that you had at early voting.
Chris, what I've been hearing is a lot of people saying, I don't like either one of these folks.
Well, I mean, after watching $100 million worth of ads, it's hard to like either one of them. Regardless of your political point of view. What I think is interesting about early voting is that there are also there's a lot of interest. Brad mentioned Wake County, Buncombe County. There's very hot contested legislative races. There's county commissioner races in Wake County and Chatham County even that are really interesting. Early voting is really heavy, and it's not because of the Hagen-Tillis race, I don't necessarily think, because there are other areas like Durham County earlier in the week wasn't quite as busy, even though it's a big Democratic stronghold. People want something else to vote for and get excited about, not the Senate race.
All right, we're going to come and cover the legislative races in a minute, but you can have additional video content from our panel on our website, ncspin.com. In addition, we have NC Spin Perspectives posted throughout the week in print and on video. So keep up throughout the week by visiting our ncspin.com website and catch us at NC Spin on Facebook and at NC Spin Tweets. Balanced debate for the Old North State. When we come back, we'll break down the NC House.
NC Spin will return after these messages.
My name is Bernie Teal. Sunburst Farms has been in my family for over 35 years. Last year I had to do something I'd never done before. Destroy 10 acres of good squash. I wasn't able to find enough workers. The opportunity is there. American families are demanding locally grown vegetables, and I want to provide that to them. So please tell Congress that we need immigration reform now.
I think family physicians are very conscious of cost. They want to order the right test at the right time for the right patient. If you have someone else who is interjected in that decision-making, who has profit as their bottom line motive, I think it changes the whole conversation. You lose trust. I think the trust is with the family physician who has the patient's best interest at heart. If the person making those recommendations and decisions about testing and procedures and going to see a particular specialist, if that is being made with profit in mind, there's no way a patient can have trust in that.
North Carolina's family physicians support Medicaid reform that keeps healthcare decisions right where they belong, between the patient and their trusted family physician. OurNCHealthcare.com.
We now return to NC Spin.
Okay, we want to break down the legislative races. John, the big election is actually going to take place in December or early January. That's the election that's going to replace Tom Tillis as Speaker of the House. At this point, who's the favorite to become House Speaker?
You mean assuming the Republicans were to somehow manage to hold on to the House?
Yes, somehow manage, yes.
There are a number of Republicans who would like the job, as we know, Mike Hager, Tim Moore, Nelson Dollar, Tim Moffitt, if he was reelected, we'll see.
Leo Daughtry.
I actually think that the least objectionable candidate, the one that doesn't raise as many hackles as the others, is Leo Daughtry.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing more about him than anybody else. That, I guess, is the most likely
All right,
scenario.
let's go into some of these districts now, because and to the viewers, regardless of where you live, this is of interest, we think, because of the fact this is going to make up what the new legislature is going to look like insofar as majorities are concerned. The House needs to, the Democrats need to take, 6 seats in the House to get rid of the supermajority. So let's break this down. We start off with the 2nd district, which is located in the eastern part of the state. Somebody handicap this race for us.
Jefferson Yarborough.
Jefferson Yarborough.
Well, both of these, I think Jeffers is a current county commissioner. Yarborough is a former county commissioner. Yarborough is the Republican. This is a seat that had been Democratic. This is one of the Republican opportunities for a pickup, competitive race.
All right. Another one down in the eastern part of the state that we're looking at is the Paul Tyne-Mattie Lawson race. Chris?
Well, that's a rematch of 2 years ago. Paul Tyne is one of the more conservative Democrats, a business conservative. Mattie Lawson is a founder of the local Tea Party chapter. She's very far to the right, although it was a close race last time, and I think it'll be relatively close this time.
Is the Betsy Jordan race with Rick Catlin? Yeah. Is that of interest?
No, that's a Republican performing district. I think Betsy's performed as well as she could in a very Republican district, but it's probably 55% Republican performing. Caitlin should be okay.
All right, Doug, Tom Murray, Gail Adcock. This is a race that is drawing some interest.
Yeah, a Wake County race, and right there, it looks like that's going to be a Democrat seat. Adcock, I think Adcock will carry that in Wake County.
One interesting note, going back
so
to
the Dees will take a seat there, is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
One interesting thing, in talking about the speaker's race, Tim Moore actually came in and knocked door to door for Tom Murray. And I hadn't heard any other speaker candidates out doing door-to-door.
And he has knocked door-to-door in other races.
I disagree with Doug in that race in the sense that I think it's hand-to-hand combat. Tom Murray's raised $700,000 in a state house race, hadn't gotten a lot of support from the Republican caucus. He's done it himself. It's going to be a very narrow victory, but I think Murray may pull it out.
So you're going to pick the Republican over
in Cumberland County now, we've got the Rick Glazier race. Most people would have thought that was a fairly safe seat, wasn't it? He's running against
Richard. This is always a close race.
Richard Button?
It's a rematch also, I believe. Rick Glazier has won by the narrowest of margins a couple times. He's one of the, I think.
But he's already won. I mean, he's two-term.
Right, and he was chair of the school board. But people perceive, because he's maybe the most eloquent progressive spokesperson in the House, that means he's in a very safe district and is always going to be reelected. And it's always very close. I think this will be close, too.
Yeah, and a lot's going to depend on what happens in that state Senate race. If Meredith prevails in the state Senate race, Senate 20, and
which we'll
Senate district
in
Cumberland County in 19, then that could have an impact on Glazier's race.
All right, let's talk about Jim Fulgham's seat. Gary Pendleton's running against Kim.
In Wake County?
Yeah, Hanchett in Wake County. Handicap that one.
This is a situation where Gary Pendleton was chairman of the county commission in Wake County. Of course, it was back in the 90s. He's reminding people of who he is. Hanchett is running very aggressively. It's an open seat. It's a seat that I think maybe a month ago people wrote off Pendleton because the Democrats were really doing well in Wake County, getting their vote together. But Pendleton's very competitive in this race, is what I hear.
Yeah, I've got it as a toss-up. I mean, it's going to depend on turnout.
All right. In the area, then, we're also talking about Mike Stone's race against Brad Solomon. How's that one looking?
I think this is the one the Democrats will pick up. Brad Salmon is from Harnett County, which is where I think sort of the weak spot the last time they ran a candidate against Mike Stone. Tobacco farmer. Mike Stone has had all sorts of controversies. There are some Republicans in Lee County that aren't happy with him, not just about fracking, but some of his gambling affiliations, his convenience store. He's really had a rocky term. I think this would be, if I was going to make a list of the ones the Democrats are going to pick up, this would be toward the top of the list.
Interesting. How about Winky Wilkins' incumbent race?
That race is going to be really interesting. That should be a race that the Democrats clearly win. And I think right now the Democrats are very worried about the Republican who's running in that open seat.
All right. We move over to, we got to go up to the western part of the state. Tim Moffitt is running a very interesting contest up there against John Bradford.
Brian Turner.
Brian Turner.
And there are three candidates, Republicans in the West. That's one of them. Tim Moffitt is one. Another is Nathan Ramsey, the former chairman of the Buncombe County Commission, who's an incumbent House member. And then Michelle Presnell, a little bit further west. All three of those Republicans facing funded, capable Democratic challengers. This is another story.
And this is Republican country here now.
Well, no, remember, Buncombe County is
Buncombe has been more Democratic.
But what I'm saying, and even in Michelle Presnell's area, there are some Democratic-leaning counties. What I would say about that is, again, a month ago, what I heard mostly was Republicans very nervous that they might lose all three of those seats out west. Now I'm hearing the Republicans are firmed up. They're doing a little bit better. They spent some money on cable and done mailers. And now all three of those races are competitive, though Presnell's probably in greater danger.
And I think the interesting thing there is Moffitt was really one of the names that you heard a lot for Speaker, and he's fighting for his life to keep his seat right now.
And this is one of the areas of the state where you've seen a huge concentration from Governor Hunt's, i.e. North Carolina Families First. They've done broadcast TV, they've done cable TV, and intensive mail programs. I think Presnell's gone. Questionable on Ramsey. Moffitt race way too close to call within the margin of error. I will say this, Brian Turner, if he wins, will be a great bright light for the Democratic Party down here.
Any other House seats that are up that we haven't mentioned that deserve to get some mention here?
Well, we've got the Waddell seat, which is in the southeastern part of the state. That's a race I'm not sure people had on their radar screen, the Democrat held seat, and it's an area where the Republicans are competing.
And I'll tell you that Charlotte down in Mecklenburg County, 92 with Jeter, Representative Jeter. It's a rematch from 2012. Jeter's run a very competitive race there. Also, the Speaker's race has been a race. That's an open seat. Republicans will perform there.
The other thing I would say is that the district, Jonathan Jordan's district in the Northwest, the High Country area, Watauga County, that's been an area of a lot of controversy about the early voting site at Appalachian State, and just that's a general area where if the student groups, the student voters and professors turn out, that's a competitive seat. If they don't, and the more conservative residents of Watauga County vote, Jonathan Jordan faces Sue Counts in that race. He's favored, but it's competitive.
We've talked about the fact that in midterm elections, whatever party is in the governor's mansion, the other party tends to pick up seats. All right, so let's assume that the Democrats will probably pick up seats in the House elections. How many do you think they're going to pick up?
I think they get 3.
Go ahead.
I'd say maybe 4. They ought to be picking up 6 or 7 based upon the opportunities, but they've lost some of their opportunities.
Yeah, there are a couple of seats. Sue Martin, this Martin seat, the Brian Brown seat. They'll pick up 2 or 3.
All right. I think it'll be 4 or 5.
All right. Be back to look at the Senate in just a moment.
NC Spin will return after these messages.
Hi, I'm Linda Loveland. I want the best for my kids. Feeding them foods they like within my budget is a priority. But what do we really know about these foods? North Carolina farmers and food experts give you a website to find it all. FeedTheDialogueNC.com, a place where moms like you and me can learn more about the foods we eat and the farmers that feed us. Check it out. Add your input and help feed the dialogue. Let's talk food at FeedTheDialogueNC.com.
The cost of everything has gone up dramatically over the last 75 years. With one exception, keeping electricity affordable. That's the power of your co-op membership. Learn more at togetherwesave.com.
North Carolina's Touchstone Energy Cooperatives, looking out for you.
We now return to NC Spin.
All right, let's move over to the Senate. We talked a little bit before in the last segment about Democrats picking up seats, perhaps narrowing the supermajority. Doug, why is that important for the Democrats to erase the Republican supermajority? What difference does that make?
So for Democrats, see, I don't personally think it's that important right now. There's two things. Number one, obviously, with a supermajority, I'm not going to say that you don't have any voice, but your voice is greatly reduced. And, of course, for folks back home, they look at you as kind of, well, you really don't have any clout. That hurts you in your ability back home, but also for fundraising. So when you get rid of that supermajority, that means that the majority party has to play ball with you. They have to cross over and listen to your points of views and do some negotiating. With the supermajority, it's basically their agenda.
How does that help or hurt Pat McCrory?
Well,
either having it or losing the supermajority.
Well, he had it this day, and there was still a contentious relationship. So, I mean, being from the same party doesn't necessarily mean the same philosophy, but it's important for the Republicans to hold that.
All right, let's talk about some of these Senate races, and I think we need to start up in the northeastern corner, District 1, which is Mark Basnight's old seat. We've got a rematch there between Stan White and Bill Cook. Brad, handicap it.
It's extremely competitive. Cook saying he's up by 3 or 4 margin. The Democrats, Stan White saying his poll's showing him up 3-4 points. You're probably in the middle. I think it's way too close to call. It could be a race again. You know, it was decided by less than 100 votes last time. It could be a race decided by 500 votes. I will say this, it looks good. Democrats are outperforming.
All right, let's move over to the 2nd district where we've got Norman Sanderson and Carr Ipock, which is interesting because both of you guys are working on different sides of the fence here.
That's right.
Handicap it for us.
I would say that Mr. Ipock has the better consultant, but I have the better candidate. So I'm going to pick Norman Sanderson in that by a comfortable margin.
It's just a very diplomatic. Yeah, it's a tough Republican district.
All right, let's move over to New Hanover County, Tom Goolsby's seat, Chris. Michael Lee was appointed to replace Goolsby. He now faces Elizabeth Redenbach. How's that looking?
Well, I think this is the one early on Democrats thought they had a shot at picking up. Goolsby was unpopular. I think that probably contributed to him not running again. He resigned to become a lobbyist. But the Democrat used to be a Republican, was on the school board, but all looks like now the Republicans are going to hold this seat. Mike Lee has run several times. Looks like this time.
All right, John, we got to move over to District 15. This is Neil Hunt's seat. We've got and former Jim Fulgham was appointed and then died in office. John McAlexander is running against Tom Bradshaw, former mayor.
Yes.
The polls are showing Bradshaw up.
They are, I think, internal and external. The Democrats are playing to win in Wake County, and this is an area. This is a seat where they have a very good shot of winning. And Tom Bradshaw will immediately become, I think, a leader in the Senate caucus if he's to win. He is a former cabinet secretary to Jim Hunt, but boasts about his ability to work with Republicans around the country. So I think it's an interesting race. Right. The Democrats are in.
I want to move over to District 18 again. It's in Wake County. We got Chad Barefoot running against Sarah Crawford. This is a really close race.
It absolutely is. I mean, Barefoot's got a real battle on his hand, and Wake County, probably, we've talked about it a lot, you know, and it sounds cliche, but John was exactly right. It's going to be about turnout. This is going to be a much closer race than many people thought.
And then we got to move down to Cumberland County. This is a Donnybrook down there between Billy Richardson and Wesley Meredith, and charges and counter charges.
Again, both camps claiming they've got the lead. It's going to be super, super tight. I think at the end of the day, Billy Richardson will pull it out.
All right. Got to go to Richmond and Scotland. Gene McLaurin, Tom McInnes. Chris, very quickly.
Well, this is Brad will know more about this, but this is McLaurin has been endangered before. I think this is going to be one of the closest Senate races. I think this is one place where the Republicans think they can actually pick up a seat.
And finally, in Macon County and that part of the world over there, James Hips and Jim Davis.
This is a race that hasn't gotten a lot of money spent, but it's noticeable the Republicans haven't spent much money in a race that has been competitive in the past. Davis is probably favored, but this is a race worth watching on election night.
Democrats could win that.
All right. So at the end of the day, how many seats do the Democrats gain?
4.
Really?
I agree with that.
They take the simple majority or what?
I think that's a bit strong. I think it might be more in the 2 to 3 range.
I'd say 3.
Interesting. Well, we'll hold you to those predictions next week. After these messages, we come back with more on our election preview.
NC Spin is brought to you in part by the North Carolina Farm Bureau. The Farm Bureau and Agriculture. We keep North Carolina growing.
Does your North Carolina business or organization have a story to tell? I'm Richard Campbell, and at Carolina Broadcasting and Publishing, we help tell stories that connect you to the people who will respond. We take the time to understand our clients' needs and what makes them unique. We craft their stories through the efficient use of words, images, and videos that resonate with their desired audience. We also know that a good story is incomplete without a call to action. On video, on air, online, and in print, from concept to final production, no one can help tell your story more effectively or affordably than we can. For special introductory offers, visit carolinabroadcasting.com or call 919-832-1416. Again, that's carolinabroadcasting.com. Let us help tell your story today.
All right, the time we've got left, we want to talk some more about the race. Is this going to be a camp at the end of the day where we say Democrats did better and gained a little ground on Republicans, or is this going to be one of these situations where Republicans continue to prevail by large margins and keep the momentum in the state very quickly?
Baby steps for the Democrats. It's a setup for the 2016 election where the Democrats will actually be on the stage to be able to take legislature.
All right, I want to get to just put a final dot on the judicial and appellate court races. Any final words, anything happening on them,
It's
John?
worth saying that on the Court of Appeals, most of the attention has gone to this bizarre 19-candidate seat that's out there, that John Arrowwood is the Democratic endorsed nominee, John Tyson, the Republican. But there are two other seats. Lucy Inman, the Democrat, against Bill Southern, a Republican. Both have judicial experience. And then you have Mark Davis on the court running against the Republican Paul Holcomb. And those races haven't gotten much attention, but they're important.
And in the Supreme Court races, the Justice for All PAC came in, has bought a $400,000 worth of commercials. That's a group that ran the scurrilous ad
against Robin Hudson
right.
again.
Well, they ran that ad in the primary. Now we don't know what ad they're going to run, but they've bought money.
But there is a TV ad running. It's not a banjo ad for Mike Robinson, the Republican, against Sherry Beasley, but it is a guitar playing ad.
All right, final 30 seconds. Any final words on the appellate court races?
No.
We're covered. All right, so at the end of the day, Republicans going to be dominating our appellate courts? Is that what we're thinking?
I think Republicans will retain control of the state Supreme Court. They might gain a bit on the Court of Appeals or stay even. I think, generally speaking, this will be a year where the Democrats actually fell short of expectations down the ballot from the Senate race.
Well, you've heard our spin on the issues today. We hope you've enjoyed this election preview. To stay informed all during the week, find out what happened in the elections, be sure to read our weekly column, visit our website, ncspin.com, or catch us on Facebook. Next week, our panel will analyze what happened and tell you whether they were right or wrong and what it's going to mean for our future. Until then, stay informed and watch out for the spin.
Join us next week and get the spin on issues facing our state.